For the listeners of Radio Tarana, during the New Zealand lockdown situation, we have made all the efforts to bring the news and information in any ways to our listeners and viewers. But today we have a special interview with the Labour-list MP, Priyanca Radhakrishnan. Priyanka ji, welcome to this Radio Tarana interview. How are you doing?
Hi, Heyman. Thank you for having me on your show, firstly. I'm doing very well, thank you. Working from home like many others are during this period, but also this is the longest that I've spent at home in many years, so I'm trying to make the most of it as well. How have you been doing?
Like you, found a new innovative way to communicate and all these net meetings and calls and all that. But comfort of our homes is also bringing a little bit of discomfort to some people. But I guess it's safety for all of us, which is imperative that we stay inwards. But I guess have you found any other creative ways of doing different things? Or I see you've been doing some cooking, etc., and been busy.
Yes, well, our oven died 2 days into alert level 4, so that was a little bit problematic. But since it's an essential item, we've had another one come through this weekend. So I've been, I guess, honing my baking skills. I've always quite liked to bake, but I'm also cooking a lot more than I have in the last 5 or 6 years, actually, and quite enjoying it. I'm a very slow cook, though, which is why I don't often cook. Also, it's not been at home very much, but yeah, I've been trying out some new recipes, and now that we have a bit of time in the weekends, it's been going quite well.
And in terms of working behind the scene, I guess to support the engine of Prime Minister and the efforts, there must be times that you've been. Is it normal office hours working on calls and meetings?
I don't think there ever was anything like normal office hours, Hemant. But in essence, the role is still the same in the sense that people come to me with a number of issues. In the first week of alert level 4, there were lots of people who needed a little bit of assistance to interpret what the government's regulations were, or the different rules and what you can and can't do at alert level 4, and to interpret that to their specific situations. So there was a lot of that. A lot of people who came through wanting to know if they could be considered essential services. And I'll give you an example from some of our communities. People wrote in saying that dairies should be considered essential because in some communities people didn't have access to large supermarkets. The same for laundromats as well. Also in the electorate of Maungakeke, where I'm based, I had a few people who run laundromats come through and say that. So upon a little bit more investigation or reflection, I realized that there were families that didn't have washing machines in some of the poorer parts of Auckland. For them, laundromats would be essential, or it was, you can't wash your clothes for 4 weeks. So that sort of information that comes through, I feed through to Cabinet then. And it gets considered by relevant ministers who are making these decisions around. And then you'll see, and I'm sure many other colleagues of mine would have fed through information like that as well, which has then led to dairies being considered essential on a one-in, one-out basis, and the same for self-service laundromats. So that's the kind of work that we're doing, sort of connecting with people, trying to help them with some of the issues they're facing, and if certain decisions need to change as a basis of what people are going through, things don't work for them, then our role becomes a conduit to Cabinet to pass that on as members of Parliament on the government benches, to pass that on and to talk to colleagues about why certain things need to change. The whole premise of this, of course, has been to ensure that people have access to the necessities of life, but to drastically reduce contact outside one's household. That's the principle that sits behind alert level 4.
As we've
That's been my job, and I've been working full-time doing it from the comfort of my dining table, which is now my office.
Indeed, and isn't it a little bit different to have a little bit of comfort, but then at the same token, it's uneasy for a lot of people because, of course, we want to break free and do a lot of different things out there. But coming back to the situation that New Zealand's been praised for its efforts around the world, that we've kept our numbers really low and our lockdown has really worked for us. But having said that, after the week 3, we're going into that week 4, and where the alert level will change. People are also asking about these things, how we're going to get to it. And I think Prime Minister rightfully announced today there'll be step-by-step and efforts, things that we have to take in consideration. So I guess there'll be a bit of a task and work for your team as well to put all that together and take it forward.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So the Prime Minister has said that we will know on the 20th whether alert level 4 will be lifted after the 4-week period that was initially announced. She has also said that this week there will be a bit more information coming out in terms of what people can expect and what some of the rules will be in terms of the do's and don'ts at every alert level. Just to make it absolutely clear what what the expectations will be, both from government of members of the public, and the same vice versa, that members of the public can expect from government as well. And I think that goes to the point that you made. I agree. I've been incredibly proud of the leadership of New Zealand in terms of the amount of work that's gone into preparing us as a nation for various alert levels. The priority of the government has always been, firstly, to protect the health of New Zealanders, to ensure, and that's where the ramping up of testing, contact tracing, and all of that has come in, to ensure mental health of New Zealanders as well, and then also to protect the economy. And so our economic response package and all that sits behind that, is to cushion businesses and families from the economic impact of COVID. So there will be there's already been a huge amount of work that's gone into this, and a lot of clarity, as people would have seen regular stand-ups from the Prime Minister herself and also the Director General of Health, Dr. Ashley Bloomfield. So just making sure that everyone's clear as to what they need to do. And as we are in week 3, as you've pointed out, the message remains the same: to stay home, stay safe, stay in your bubbles, and save lives.
Indeed. And now coming back to the situation of Indian people of Indian origin who are stuck in India, I'm sure you've been offer that advice to say what can be done and what support is available to our Indian people who are stuck in India, or the New Zealanders who are stuck in India. So what are the steps going forward that has been released today?
Yeah, so the government understands that there have been about 770 New Zealanders stranded in various states across India since both countries went into lockdown. It's been incredibly difficult for many of them, and I just want to say also at this point that our mission, that the New Zealand High Commission in India has been working incredibly hard to ensure that there are, there's food, medical supplies, and accommodation provided to those who are struggling over there. So just a shout out to them as well. But it has been really difficult. Many of them have contacted me directly. Many of their families here have contacted me as well. It's an issue that I raised directly with the Prime Minister early last week, and she assured me that it would be looked into. I understand the government's been working incredibly hard, relevant ministers. It's a challenging, it's a challenging issue, very complex, with both the number of New Zealanders there, the geographical spread of New Zealanders across India, and of course the fact that countries we would have ordinarily transited through had shut their borders to transit flights as well. So quite a few challenges that needed to be worked through. I understand today, though, the Minister of Foreign Affairs has announced that the New Zealand government will is working with airlines and international partners to organize government-assisted flights to help New Zealanders stranded in India to get back home. Now, we have done a few of those in the past few days, particularly one to Peru that people would have heard of. And as with that flight, there will be a cost associated to those who avail of government-assisted flights to get home to New Zealand. It'll be comparable to the Peru flight, so there's no, it's just to recoup costs basically. But the advice I understand from the Foreign Ministry is for New Zealanders who are there in India to avail of these flights, to try and get a seat on them, because there's no saying when international commercial flights will be up and running between the two countries as well. Finally, I understand that the information about these flights will be shared with New Zealanders stranded there through the Safe Travel New Zealand mechanism. So for anyone who's listening, if you know somebody who's there, if they haven't already, please encourage them to register with Safe Travel New Zealand.
Indeed,
But
and
successful outcome, which I'm very pleased about.
yes, and going into normality from level 4 to level 3 and level 2, of course, that we'd like to see in time. But look, I guess once again, we all have done our part, and we still have to play a part going forward. And we will welcome any message from the Prime Minister that you need to bring to the Indian community. We'll be definitely welcoming that to bring it to our community so they can take part in this successful mission.
Yeah, look, I would just like to thank everyone because this is a collective effort. For this to be successful, we each have to play our part, as you've rightly pointed out, Hemant. Many of the essential workers who are out there on the front lines are from our ethnic communities, and I want to thank them. Especially for the work that they're doing, because it's because of them that the rest of us can actually stay home and break the chain. So huge thanks to them. The other point I'd like to make is to say that a number of our community organizations, religious organizations, sports organizations within the ethnic community space have actually been going out of their way to support those who need a little extra support. It could be families on temporary visas, it could be international students as well. And I commend them and thank them for that, because again, we each have a role to play in ensuring that everyone's okay and gets through this period. So a huge thanks to them. And I'd like people to actually send me some names of organizations that have been going out of their way to support people, because I'd like to work out a way to thank them once we're out of all of this. And finally, can I thank members of our ethnic media and yourself, Hemant and Radio Tarana, because one of the considerations the government had at the start of Alert Level 4 as well, was that government messages need to reach all segments of our society. Everyone needs to understand what's going on, why, and what their role in this is. And that includes our diverse ethnic communities as well. And for that, I thank our media who've been putting messages out and also communicating issues back to us. So huge thank you to all of you, and to everyone else. I say, hang in there. We're in week 3. It could get a little rough because we've been in it for a few weeks now, but just know that by staying home and staying in your bubble, you are saving lives.
Indeed, we thank you for your time and your words that come on behalf of the New Zealand Labour Party, and of course would be wanting to hear more from you. If anything that, as I said earlier, will be important to our Indian community and to our community and to our listeners who have been participating well. We thank them for their efforts, and of course the people who are working back in the background. And we thank you for your time once again. Hope to hear from you again in our next coming interviews with Radio Tarana.
It's a pleasure, as always, Hemant. Thanks so much for having me on. Take care and all the best to everyone watching, and to you.